Good morning. Welcome to the Rockford SBDC weekly webinar series. I am Heather Kelly. I'm a marketing consultant with the Rockford SBDC. Our name is the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Rockford Chamber. We help small businesses at no cost get set up with business plans and also help with marketing, accounting, budgeting, and any IT questions that you may have. Please be sure to follow us on our social pages at Rockford SBDC on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And so I'd like to introduce our director, Edward Caceres. He is with us at the Rockford Center. We also serve Winnebago, Boone, Ogle, and Stevenson counties for anyone that wants to start a business or needs help with an existing small business. Today we have Francisca Reyna from Blackhawk Bank. She is the VP of Business Development and Education. Welcome, Francisca.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
And I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. So the topic we're going to explore today is financial fitness for rising professionals. The reason for this topic is that we want to get entrepreneurs who have a desire to start a business to get their personal finances in order. So this is going to be a two-part series. In this part, we're going to address the personal side, and on a future presentation, we're going to address the business side. So with that in mind, we'll begin. So let's go ahead. This is the outline or the agenda we'll discuss today. We're going to do a brief introduction, so I'll introduce myself in just a minute. We're going to go through what we see or hear, what are the financial struggles. We're going to get into some spending habits and also insights into money savings and getting your finances in order. To have your own personal financial plan and then be able to have strong finances to enter into the business side as well. Okay, so again, my name is Francisca Reyna. I am the Vice President of Business Development and Education at Blackhawk Bank. And even though I have this long title, what I really do at Blackhawk Bank is I'm a financial coach. So people come to me for financial advice. I am a graduate of Concordia University. I have 3 degrees, one in international trade, one in business management, and another one in theology. I've been in community banking for 20 years, and I love to learn and teach people about finances. So hopefully my gift to you today is I'm gonna pass on to you some of the best financial tips that I've learned in these last 20 years in community banking. So thank you for being here. I want to start with a financial overview of what we call a person's typical financial journey. So to give you a broad overview as to what we're covering or the reasons why personal financial education is important. So from the minute that we're born, pretty much all the way until we exit, there's financial decisions that we're going to need to make. Some of those decisions are to be able to take care of our basic needs and also some wants. So when we are born, pretty much until we are in our teens, we're usually under the financial umbrella of our parents, our guardians, our loved ones. And this is all about getting an education, knowing what we're going to do for a living, what type of skills, trades, what are we going to do when we grow up. And mostly it's focusing on an education to create an income. Nowadays, an income can come from the education and also from starting your own business. That's why we're here. As we age, you may decide to start a family, buy a home, And then as people get into their 40s and 50s, this is where we see a strong need or desire to make sure that they are paying attention to retirement. They really want to have a plan. They want to know that they're heading in the right direction. And what I've seen in my last 20 years in community banking, it used to be that when people were in their 50s, here is when they would decide to start a business. And so why is that? Because so by the time they were in their 50s, their families are grown, the house is paid, the kids are gone out of the house. And so in here is when they would then have good personal assets. So the house is paid for, may or could be used as collateral to start a business. They have had a career where they've worked someplace for 20 or 30 years and they really know their stuff. They really know what they're doing. In many cases, they're running a business for someone else. And so it used to be that when they got to their 50s, that's when they wanted to start a business. But we're seeing a trend where starting a business is happening a lot sooner. The reason for that is because with technology, there's not a lot of upfront large capital costs. So we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs jumping in a lot earlier and making really good money. Some of them retire early and they find that they don't want to be in retirement golfing for 2 years, so they don't want to be in retirement fishing for 2 years, and they come back and they start even better businesses. Another thing is on the personal side is that most people aim to retire somewhere around 65 because this is when they can collect Social Security. So we'll address that in the presentation. Right here is when we are talking to our clients about making sure that they have a will, making sure that they have a good estate planning discussion, that their wealth is going to pass on to the next generation or whatever their desires may be. So I just, in a broad sense, these are the things we're going to be talking about. And it's important that you have your personal finances ready when you're going to start a business. So let's talk about what are the financial struggles of young professionals, or young entrepreneurs. Usually what we hear is that they maybe have student loans, maybe they have some other miscellaneous debts, maybe they have low wages. So what we want to do is we want to be able to dispel those myths. Okay, so really what we see on the banking side is that a good number of young adults do not have money goals, or they do not have their personal finances in order. So hopefully some of the tools that we're going to share here will help you to do that. So we're going to talk about, how to be intentional with money and then how to get organized. So the number one recommendation would be, and I am going to give to Heather a copy of this entire presentation along with these tools so you can begin to use them. So number one step, I want you to think about goal setting. And in this step, I want you to, and we're not crunching numbers yet, you don't need to take out your paycheck or calculator. I want you to dream in high definition. So I want you to think about, in terms of time, within 1 to 5 years, what is it that you would like to be doing with your hard-earned money? What are your goals? So we want you to set a goal within 1 to 5 years. So if that goal is, I would like to start my own business within 1 to 5 years, excellent. This would be your goal number one here. Usually what we hear in banking, just across the board and all the different counties that we serve, I'm going to throw out some things that people say. They say, I want to pay off my high interest credit card or high interest loans. Okay. They just want to get out of debt. Or we hear, I want to start my own business. So that's an excellent goal. The other one that we hear is, I want to buy a house for the first time. Another one that we hear is, I want to pay off my current car loan, or I want to buy a new car. Or a fun one I love to hear is I want to stay for a family vacation. So whatever your goals may be, make sure that you are identifying. I mean, dream about it. It's okay. Don't worry about where the income is going to come from. We'll address that. But I want you to have a big goal and be intentional about what you're selecting for you, for your family, and we're going to stay focused on that. Other goals in the 5 to 10 year, for example, what is it that you would like to be doing with your hard-earned money within 5 to 10 years? In the retail side, one of the things that we hear about is if we have a person that already owns a home, they want to maybe have a second home or a family vacation home. They may want to, and this is one we hear a lot with young professionals, is they are trying to pay off student loans or student debt. The other one that we hear on the long-term goals is saving for retirement. So if you're young, you're just starting your career, you're gonna be saving for retirement for a long time. I like to call it buying your retirement ahead of time. So that would be one of the goals. If you wanna save for kids' college education, that would be from the minute they're born until they're 18, that's a long-term goal. So saving for kids' college education. So I also recommend, because I do a lot of couples finances, I recommend that you set up a date and you go out with your loved one, bring out this and talk about what you would like to do, what are each other's dreams, and then make a list of them. When you set up this date, make sure you get a babysitter, and that both of you talk about your own personal financial goals. What you want to do is, what we see that when couples are on the same page with money, they go through these goals a lot faster. So use this as a tool to have those conversations and make sure that your household is on the same page, especially if you're going to be starting a business. Make sure that you both have goals and both goals are being addressed, and we're using our household income to address those goals. So I'll make sure to include these so you have them for your own goal setting. Now, are you this type of person? Are you future oriented? Most people are. I mean, if you're in these classes, you're thinking about doing something in the future, or you want to improve the situation where you're at now to have a better future. Calculated means that we're going to find what are the different ways that we can get to our goals. And we have to be patient. You know, it takes time. So we have to be patient and organized, and then be able to delay gratification. And most people are or have these characteristics. If you don't, those can be learned as well. Now, 3 habits of money smart people, and if you learn something from me today, this is probably the most important, is that we have a budget on an ongoing basis. I'll share with you a template on how to do a budget. And the other thing is living within our means. That means that we're not gonna charge everything on a credit card or a loan, and we're gonna be looking for ways to find additional income. Entrepreneurs love to do that. So what are the different ways that we can find additional income? And with today's remote work, we don't think that's gonna go away. That's even a lot easier. So with that in mind, I also like to spend a few minutes talking about credit. If you're thinking about becoming your own boss and having your own business, credit plays an important part. So in summary, credit, it's designed by financial institutions can buy a copy of your credit report by going to 3 of the credit bureaus in the United States. So we have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And so financial institutions or whomever is in the business of lending money, we usually go out to these credit bureaus to buy a copy of your credit report. So once we purchase a copy of your report, in essence, we can look back 10 years. So from the minute we run your credit, we can look back 10 years. So what the credit report is showing or is doing is actually rating how we make payments, how we use our credit, how long we have had credit, if you're inquiring for new credit, what types of credits are you using. And so all of these components make up what is called a FICO score. And the FICO score is a computer generated algorithm that is looking at all of these aspects on the pie chart. The FICO score has a range, minimum 350, maximum 850. And just to give you an idea, most financial institutions consider 650 or higher in order to make a loan, whether you're making a mortgage loan, a personal loan, or a business loan. It's important to have good credit. And so one of the biggest items that the algorithm is looking at is that we make our payments on time. So payments would be anything from credit cards, student loans, home loans, anything that you've taken on credit will be reporting to the credit report. Now, there are things that are not necessarily extensions of credit that report to the credit bureau. For example, if we fail to pay utilities, those report to the credit bureau. There are some landlords that report to the credit bureau. So if we fail to pay our rent, it'll show up on the credit report. Medical collection, if we fail to make payments on our medical debt, they will also show up on the credit report, even though they are not technically an extension of credit. So it is important that we are making all of our payments on time in order to be able to develop a good score. The other portion the algorithm is looking at is how much of our existing credit card limit are we using? It does not like it if we max out credit cards or lines of credit. Most consumers do not know this. So it is important that we take a look at credit cards or lines of credit and make sure we're not maxed out. If we are close to being maxed out, scores can drop almost 300 points, even if we make all our payments on time. So these are probably the two biggest areas to be able to develop good credit. Make sure we're making our payments on time, make sure we're not maxing out our credit cards. It is recommended to stay at 50% or less than your available credit. The minute we start charging more than 50% of what's available on your credit cards, those points will start dropping, even if we make all of our payments on time. So the other area is, well, how long have we had credit? For most people, whenever you start your first line of credit. The other area is it true that every time we apply for credit, our points go down? I would say yes, but if you're someone that it's in the 700 range, I wouldn't worry about it. The important thing is that if you're not serious about buying something, just don't go crazy checking your credit report. But it is also important to look at your credit report at least once a year to make sure that you're not a victim of identity theft, even if you do not need a loan. The other area here is type of credit in use. So there's, according to the credit report, there's three types of credit. One is your revolving credit, which is your credit cards. You use them and reuse them as you pay them. The other one is real estate loans. Okay, so real estate loans, it's another type of credit. And the other one is installment loans. So that would be your car loans. It's a set number of payments. When you're done making those payments, you don't get to reuse that loan. So all of these are in the pie chart is what the algorithm is looking at, and it helps you get to the 850 range. But what's important, I would say, is that you pay attention to making your payments on time and pay attention to not maxing out. For the most part, you're going to be fine. So some of the tools to help you develop good credit would be to create a budget. So we recommend that you do a budget every month on paper, on purpose, before the month begins. Again, I'm going to share and I'm going to give to the SBDC this presentation along with a copy of the budget worksheet that you can print and download on your site. Again, pencil and paper works fine. Some people decide to do their budgets on Excel. That's even better. Some people like to do it on an app, on a download an app on your phone. So whichever method you use, it's fine, as long as you're being consistent and paying attention to your money. So the purpose of the budget is that we give every dollar a job. So every dollar in your life has a job, and you get to tell your money what to do. This is why we are budgeting. So if you learn one thing from me today, this is probably the most important part to get your finances in order. If you're going to be applying for business loans, this is an excellent tool to get you organized and get you ready, because the information on this budget, you will need it to complete your personal financial statement when an application is made for a business loan. So it'll get you organized. On the top part here, we're going to put any income that comes into the household, okay? So whomever is contributing to the household income, we want to put in here net income, okay? Net income is after we pay taxes, after we pay for healthcare, after you put some money to your retirement, what we're bringing home, that's your net income. That's what we plug in here, because those are the dollars that we can tell them what to do. And so once we identify this is our net income, we identify what are the expenses. So mortgage or rent, your utilities, food. This is a big item. With food, this is a little difficult to control for many families right now with inflation, but this is very important that we are setting a budget for food, and we kind of stay within those limits. So you're going to go ahead and plug in here all of your expenses. Again, the point of doing a budget is that you're giving every dollar a job, and you're being intentional with your money. The other reason you want to do a budget is it'll help you with a visual tool on what else could we cut back, or what can be eliminated, or what could we switch around to make this budget work better. You know, the other thing that comes up for many people when they do their budgets is they're thinking about what other sources of income, like entrepreneurs, are we able to bring in. So it'll start giving you some ideas on what to do. Now, the reason we want to do a budget is that you want to squeeze every dollar out of the budget to be able to achieve your goals. This is why we're doing goal setting. As you do your budget, we also recommend, if you're in debt, not everybody is, but if you're tackling debt, again, this is going to help you to get ready when you begin your business. So we're going to make a list of all of our debts, smallest to largest. Okay, again, I will provide a copy of this template, and you'll receive an email with the whole presentation and these tools. So we'll make a list of all debts, smallest to largest. The debts don't necessarily have to be included on your credit report. So let's say I owe Heather at the SBDC $100. So I'm going to put Heather, total $100. My minimum payment, we're going to try to pay the smallest debt. So we're going to squeeze every dollar that we can out of the budget, and we're going to pay the whole thing. So next month comes around, we're doing the same thing. We're squeezing everything we can out of our budget. Every dollar that we have available, we're going to throw it at the next debt. In the meantime, we're gonna make minimum payments on everything except that little one. And that's the purpose of the budget, okay? So the budget will help you to realize how much money comes into the household, how much money goes out of the household to take care of our basic needs, and whatever we have left, we're throwing it at the debt. And we're gonna be doing this until debt is gone. So one of the things that comes up and people ask is, so where should my money be going? Like, how do we know what comes first? So a good suggestion or a good recommendation is that we should have a baby emergency fund. Okay, so especially if we are in debt, we want to be able to have an emergency fund, at least $1,000. If our car breaks down, if you need a new battery, if you need new tires, whatever it is, we're going to use our emergency fund instead of getting farther into debt. Okay, so step number one is to come up with all the ideas to be able to create an emergency fund. If you're employed today, for example, and you get paid bi-weekly, so you set aside $20 every paycheck, by the end of the year, you have $1,000. So the $1,000, you can have it, I don't know, in your home, in a savings or checking. You can frame it in case of an emergency, break the glass. So just make sure that you pile up $1,000 as fast as you can. The next step is what we want to get rid of debt. So I've given you this list. Make a list of all of your debts, smallest to largest. We're going to make minimum payments on everything except that little debt. We're going to make it go away. So we'll do that on step 2. Step number 3, once we're out of debt, so think about it. Imagine not having any payments in the world. And so whatever income you're generating, you're going to put together an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Okay, only your living expenses. Again, creating a budget will give you a reference for all those numbers and will help you to stay organized. The other thing we want to do with our money is we want to make sure that we are investing for retirement. The goal is to try to get to 15% of your gross household income to be contributing to retirement. Also, we want to be in a position to be able to help our kids with kids' college funding, if that applies. And the reason why most people do this is because they want to pay off their home early. They want to be able to invest in other things, such as starting a business, and they want to be able to create wealth. So creating wealth means that your car is paid for, your house is paid for, your business assets are paid for, and so we're in a position to be able to create wealth and give. I usually share with clients, I started at Black Hawk Bank almost 20 years ago. My first job was to be a mortgage loan originator. The majority of my clients, in the 90% or higher, have already paid their homes in 15 years or less. So the majority of my clients come back and say, Francisca, we've already done all of these. What else do we do with our money? And so many of them are starting businesses, so they're helping their kids to start their own businesses. So it's really exciting to be able to see that. Another thing that we recommend is that you want to have an accountability partner. An accountability partner could be a spouse, a friend, a financial advisor, your banker, somebody that you trust to be able to stay on track and to be able to make progress. So the other reason why we want to do this is because we want to retire sometime soon. That's why we see a lot of entrepreneurs start early, they go retire, and then they come back again. So just for illustration purposes, so let's say that most people usually start contributing to retirement usually around 25, maybe earlier. And so when we begin working or being self-employed, you want to make sure that you're setting aside funds for retirement, because we're going to be on accumulation phase for a long time, assuming you aim to retire at somewhere between 55 or 65. So it's important that we're plugging along and contributing all this time. This is when we're in accumulation phase. Once we get into retirement, we're going to be in retirement for a while, could be 25 to 30 years. So it's really important that you do. So I have a question. I make a pause here. What if you're 48 with no retirement? You're still young and there is time to build a retirement. I would say if you're 48, it's even more important that we're focusing on all the steps that we talked about here. It doesn't matter what age we begin learning this stuff, you can still make progress. And 48 is a young age to begin making those things. I can tell you when I came to banking, I did not know about most of these things. This is not something that I learned from my parents. I had to learn it on my own. And so if you're 48 or 18, or 60, doesn't matter. We still want to be able to have some sort of emergency fund. $1,000 will be fine. We want to make a list of all our debts, smallest to largest. We want to focus on creating income or finding all the sources of incomes that you can to eliminate debt. And we want to stay away from debt as much as we can. The other thing is we want to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, and then we will build on retirement as well. So it is doable. It doesn't matter what age you begin. The other thing is, again, it is important at whatever age, because we're going to be living in retirement for a while, especially with the marvels of technology. We are living a lot longer. So that's just for illustration purposes. Where you put your retirement is up to you. You want to aim at 50%, 15% of your gross household income. And so where can we park this money as we begin to contribute? Some places to park your money would be using a traditional IRA. You can get a traditional IRA at any financial institution. You can also fund a Roth IRA. So the difference between these two is one is pre-tax, the other one is post-tax. So on the traditional, you'll be saving, and when you're ready to retire and pull that money out, it's taxable. On the Roth, you have already paid your taxes, you begin saving, any monies that you earn interest on, dividends on this account is yours, and you never have to pay taxes. So this is the Roth. It's one of my favorites. I would say do this if you can first. The other one is a health savings account. Not everybody has access to a health savings account, but if you have an employer, or even if you're self-employed, you can buy them in the open market. You have the ability to set aside money, and these monies are 100% tax-free, which is very rare in the IRS tax code. So any monies that you put into your health savings account, as long as you pay for your qualified medical expenses, for you, for your spouse, or your qualified dependent, you will never be taxed on those monies. These are very popular. I actually oversee the health savings account program at Black Hawk Bank since they were first implemented. And I do have many clients that have in excess of $100,000 in their accounts, because they're planning on using this money mostly when they retire, because as we age, our biggest expense, as you know, is medical. The other thing is, if you have access to a 401k through your company, that's excellent. If you're going to be self-employed, there's a way that you can have a solo 401k as a business owner, or a SEP. So where your 15% growth can go to is any of these places. Again, right today, when we ask our current clients at Black Hawk Bank, where is the money coming from for retirement? So people who are retired today, this is what we hear, okay? So where is the money coming from for retirement? The majority of our clients say, so about 1/3 is coming from Social Security, which is pretty normal. Social Security was not intended to be 100% your sole retirement plan. Been in banking for 20 years, I can assure you that I have not heard one single client ever mention that Social Security was enough for them to live on. So Social Security is going to be 1/3 of what we're going to need when we get to retirement. Another answer that we get is that they have a private pension. And as we all know, pensions are no longer around or going extinct. Very few people have pensions now. The other answer that we get is that they have an earning spouse. So one is retired, the other one is working. The other answer that we get is they have other assets. Maybe they have rental income properties, and or they have other stocks that they've managed to save. That's why we emphasize retirement early on, because it's very important to be able to do that. The other thing that we hear from some financial advisors is that for people that are 40 or younger, that Social Security may not be there for us when we get there. And so making sure that we are addressing retirement as we go on is really important. Now, this may or may not apply to some of you, but kids' college funding is important to many people. And so if you have a baby today, 260 months later, they're going to be 18 years old. So how do we save for kids' college education? These are different places where we can park some of that money. 529s are very popular. And so just to give you an idea, all of these components that I'm talking to you about are components of personal financial planning, and you personally get to decide how to do this. The majority of the customers that we work with, the reason they're doing this is because their big dream is to have their paid house to pay their house early. And as I mentioned to you, the majority of my clients have already paid their house in 15 years or less. So it is very doable if you follow some of these principles. The other reason why they do this is because they want to be able to build wealth and give. And so building wealth means that you have a savings, means that you are investing, it means that your house is paid for, it means that you have assets. And as you continue to accumulate assets, you also want to be paying attention to developing and monitoring a estate plan. So what we mean by that is that at a very minimum, you have a will, okay? To make sure that all of your accounts, checking, savings, insurance policies, a 401k, that you do have a beneficiary, because if you have beneficiaries on those accounts, they bypass the state, so the money goes directly to the beneficiary. So make sure you're doing this as you move on. And the reason, again, why people do this is because they want to live a comfortable life and not be so worried about money all the time. Again, we're going to recap some of what we talked about. The reason for getting organized would be because we want to stop living from paycheck to paycheck. So creating a budget should be a goal that we should be doing on a monthly basis. I can tell you, being in banking for 20 years, the majority of my clients who are successful with finances, they do this consistently every month. We want to be able to build an emergency fund. Again, $1,000 is very doable for a lot of people. Sell everything that you can online, on Facebook store, Craigslist, everything that you can that you don't want or you don't need, and try to come up with $1,000 pretty fast for your emergency fund. The other thing we want to be doing is we want to be try to stay out of debt as much as possible, or have a plan to pay down all the debt that we have using the debt elimination plan that I'm going to share with you. You want to be able to invest consistently. Any of the retirement plans that we talked about, if you can get access to a Roth IRA and HSA, you can do all of these three at the same time, actually. And the reason why most people do this is because, again, they want to pay off their house early. They want to be able to build wealth and give and enjoy life. So it's important that you are paying attention to your finances, that you're staying on top of your numbers, and that you're diversifying your investment portfolio, and that you have an advisor to help you as you're moving along. I'm hoping that an investment in knowledge will pay the best interest and you'll be able to use these tools. If you're looking at ways that you can create additional income, at Blackhawk Bank, we're hiring. We're growing fast and we have a lot of positions open. So if you want to take a peek at our website and go to careers, we have from very basic openings to advanced. Blackhawk Bank also pays for tuition reimbursement if you're looking to expand your knowledge in a career in banking, or even if you just want to learn banking to run your own business. This is a way to create additional income. I do want to open it up for questions. I want to make sure that I address your questions. Are there any questions, anything that we talked about? You like a little bit more explanation? Again, the purpose of this presentation today is meant to get your personal finances organized, especially if you're thinking about starting a business. When you apply for business loans, the number one thing they're going to ask you at a financial institution is to complete an application and provide a personal financial statement. A lot of the information that you're going to gather to get your personal finances organized is exactly what you're going to need once you begin your application for a business loan. So I'm hoping that this was helpful, and if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Francisca, I have a couple questions.
Yes.
One is, I've seen different debt elimination models, and I know that some of it has to do with the rate that you're paying on loans, for example.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned the pay off the small
to large
debt, which
yes.
makes sense. So do you have to arrange it in not only the amount of debt, but the interest that you're paying on it?
Heather, I'm so glad you asked this question, because there's two schools of thoughts when it comes to debt elimination. So usually we have heard that start with your highest interest first. Okay, that seems to be the smartest way to do it. In reality, in being 20 years in banking, psychologically, I can tell you that doesn't work for a lot of people. And the reason why is because they start with maybe the highest interest, and especially if it's a larger amount, they don't feel or see that they're getting any traction and they give up. So this is proven, and I can assure you, I've even done it myself. It works when you do smallest to largest. You squeeze every dollar that you can out of your budget and you tackle that little one. And by doing this psychologically, we see that we're making progress, and you're more likely to stick with this plan than to do it the other way around, where you start with the larger amount and you're throwing money at it, but you don't see it going away. So it feels like nothing is happening. And so what we've seen that works best for a lot of people is to begin smallest to largest. Concentrate on making minimum payments on everything, and then begin doing that. But also another recommendation that I give to my clients is, okay, so make a list, the smallest to largest, and on the side, write down the interest rate, okay? The other thing that I recommend is, if they're in a position to consolidate, so maybe consolidate some of your higher interest ones and then work from there, so you can bring the interest down. At Blackhawk Bank, we can help you to consolidate. So you will be happy to take a look. Again, I still recommend that you make a list, come to see us. In Perryville, we have an office. You can come see Becca or any of our personal bankers. They're trained to do this. We'd like to be your accountability partner. So one of our core values is having customers for life. So we want to do this journey with our clients. And so it's very rewarding for us to be able to help our clients along the way. When you come to any of our banks, our bankers are trained to do this with every one of our clients. So it's not strange to us. And we do encourage them to make a list. And we also do encourage them, let's consolidate and lower down interest rates in any of the things that we might be able to consolidate to be able to speed up you paying off. What you want to be careful of when you're consolidating is you don't want to take on more debt, and you don't want to stretch out the months or the time that you're gonna pay, because some people are tempted to have a smaller payment, but they stretch out the time that you're gonna be in debt. So take a really good look at your budget, make sure that you are squeezing every dollar that you can out of the budget, and use those funds to be able to eliminate debt. You will see that you're making traction a lot faster if you concentrate on the smallest to largest.
And also, do you recommend so you've got your debts listed, you've got your minimum payment listed, and let's say you pay off one of the smaller ones, do you recommend taking then that minimum payment and applying it to the next one down?
Exactly. That's why it creates traction for you, because as you're freeing up those little payments, that money goes to the next one. And as you free that one up, that money goes to the next one. And that's what motivates a lot of people to continue on the plan, because they're actually seeing, this is actually working. And the other thing that we see that happens is that as they see that it's working, they begin to think, what else can I do to lower the debt? What else? So one of the tips that I can tell you, for example, on the budgeting one, and just things that I heard from clients and things that I've done myself, take a really good look at your expenses and see what else can we do. One example on the food budget, for example, and this comes up every time, is get in the habit of making a grocery list before you go to the grocery store. Look at what you have in your pantry that you haven't used before we go on and buy new stuff. The other thing is consider making a stop at Aldi's before you go to Walmart. It'll save you a lot of money because you can get some of your basics for a lot lower at Aldi's than you do at Walmart. The other thing is consider making a meal plan for the week. So these are the meals we're gonna make this week. This is the only thing we're gonna buy when you go to the store. The other thing for budgeting, and I wanna remind and reassure everyone, budgeting is meant for you to get organized and give you permission to spend on the categories that you have designed. It's not designed to limit you or to not allow you to do things. It's a tool to give you permission to do the things that you want to do with your income. And so use this budget to be able to identify, how can we maybe bring in additional income, or how can we eliminate? I'm gonna make a confession to you. When we began using these tools at Black Hawk Bank, the first thing I eliminated out of my budget was my cable bill. It was like $120 a month. I was working most of the time. I was not even watching TV. So I decided that can go. And so I got rid of it. I got internet and I got Chromecast. And so whenever I wanted to watch something, I would do Netflix. I find other ways of watching entertainment and TV for a fraction of the price that I was paying before. Now, what I did with my rest of the money, so I had about $80 left after I made that decision. Well, give it a job. What other jobs are more important, and assign those dollars to do other things that you prioritize. And so it really feels like getting a pay raise. Another thing that I did is I took a look at my insurance policies. every type of insurance policy, car, home, life. And I got together with my insurance agent and we reviewed everything. Does this make sense for me? Do I still need this? Do I need to get rid of one thing? Do I need to add another one? And so that really helped me to bring down my insurance cost. And I've even purchased other insurance that I needed that I didn't have by lowering other things. So clothing, for example, we just need basic clothing. Brand new clothing, I mean, brand name clothing is considered a want. So yes, I want to get to it. And so there's a lot of ways that we can really take a look at. When I've helped my many families, for example, they have a phone plan for many members that no longer live in the household. So take a look at your phone plan. Do you still need to have that kind of plan, or can you adjust to a new one? So as you begin to do your budget, remember that budgeting is meant to set, I call it guardrails, okay? So let's say we say we're gonna stay within these limits. If you fall off the guardrails, get back in again. Take a look at that category again. Maybe we haven't budgeted correctly. If you've never done budgeting, it'll take you about 3 to 6 months to get into the rhythm of really what you're gonna keep or what's gonna go, what's going to adjust. One recommendation is don't look at your budget as you have to save every receipt. You don't have to reconcile every penny. The budget is just meant to give you some structure, that some limits. We want to stay within these guidelines. I can tell you a lot of my families that I've been talking to lately, they have increased their food budget. I have increased my food budget because of the prices going up. I'm still buying the same stuff. It just costs 3 times more. So pay attention to those things and let's readjust our budget, or let's rethink about how you're gonna tackle that. And thank you. That was an excellent question, Heather. Please, any other questions? I know there's more on the chat. Let me get to it. Okay. I was wondering how I plan my income percent-wise. I heard of profit first, but I have a business that is not profitable yet in this investment. 50% expenses. Okay. So again, these are guidelines. Not everybody's gonna get to those percentages on the first try. Okay, these are guidelines that will help you to aim to where you want to go. Again, we wanna aim to get to those percentages as you grow in your professional life, as you grow in your income, as you grow in education, as you grow your businesses. Hopefully every day we're doing something to get closer to those goals. So don't get disappointed or feel like, oh, I'm never gonna get there because of where I am today. Okay, so just think about from now on, knowing this information, especially when we have little money, it's very important that we create a budget. That's when we need it the most. So if we learn to be careful or to assign jobs to all our dollars when we have little money, you're going to do really well when you have more. And I can tell you this from being in banking. And there's people that they never learn these principles and they come into money, and as soon as they come into money, it's gone. They didn't learn the principles on how to be able to be wise with money and be able to incrementally continue to build wealth or not spend everything that we have. And so I would say do not lose hope. It's very doable. Another question is, what is the best interest rate in a saving account? Right now, it's not paying anything. It's being 0.00 something, which is nothing. Okay. Now, it's been like that in the last 20 years, but we are seeing a flip. When I first came to Blackhawk Bank 20 years ago, we were paying 5% on some of those accounts. I mean, CDs were earning a little more as well. But since the policy has been, it costs very little to borrow money, it also, we were not making any money on whatever monies you had. But I think we're on the reverse. We're hearing that from the Federal Reserve. Interest rates are going up. As a result of money being more expensive, you're also going to earn more on your assets because interest rates are going to go up on savings as well. Many small business owners that I work with want to remain liquid, but they're also apprehensive about taking out loans. Which do you recommend? I would say at Blackhawk Bank, and having worked with many business owners, I've worked with many of them that they start with their own funds, okay? Some do, some have their own funds. Some have already collateral. They already own something that they can put down as guarantee for the loan. And there's others that they don't, but they are still disciplined and use some of these tools that we talked about. Even if they take out a business loan, they're very conscious about creating an income to be able to be done with them as soon as possible. So what works on the personal side also works on the business side. And I would say it's a balance. There's many business owners that they don't like debt. And there's others that, we use debt to acquire assets. For example, I'll use a big asset that most of us will have. One of the biggest purchases we will ever make in our lifetime is buying a home. The sooner that we buy a home, the better. Why? Because you lock in your housing cost. So your house cost will be locked in and you're not subject to volatility in the market or rents being high like they are now. So your rent could be triple and there's nothing you can do about it. So by becoming a homeowner earlier in the process, you lock in the cost. Yes, we're gonna borrow money to do that. Most people don't have that much money already saved to pay cash for a home. But it's an asset that is going to appreciate in value. And if you have a good plan, like I'm advising you to do, you pay down that asset and you be building wealth. So the key for businesses or for homeowners is you are going to need to acquire some assets that are going to help you in the long run. Real estate is one of those assets. Some of my clients, for example, that I mentioned that are helping their kids to start their own businesses as part of their retirement strategy. They've already done everything that we talked about on the list here. So what they're doing is their kids are starting a business and the business needs to purchase a building. So the parents are buying the building and they're leasing it to the business, and they're keeping the ownership, and this is part of the retirement strategy. This asset is theirs. So at some point they can sell it to the business, or they can continue to be landlords and have an income revenue when they're in retirement. So I would say not to be afraid to purchase an asset. If you need to use some financing, it's okay, but do it wisely in a way that you can tackle that debt. And we don't have to keep a loan for 30 years. Most people don't want to keep it for 30 years, so they find ways to pay it down faster. Same with the business owners. I mean, if they take a loan to start a business, they don't want to keep that loan for a long time. They're going to strive to do everything they can to create revenues, to be able to own that asset. And so, excellent questions. Can a business acquire real estate? Yes, you can. A business can acquire it. I live in he owns, yeah. A business can acquire real estate. Yes, that's pretty normal for a lot of businesses. Heather, any other questions? Did I address most of the questions on the chat?
Yes, I don't see any other questions on my end. Are there any other questions?
If there's no questions, I want to wrap up by letting you know that you will have access to all of these tools. Heather will email them to you since you registered with her. If you need any help or any guidance on your personal journey at Blackhawk Bank, that's what we do. So feel free to come see us. We don't charge for the advice. Again, most of what we teach, you can do it at any financial institution, not just Blackhawk Bank. This is just general practices. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm hoping that I was able to contribute in some way to your financial journey. Thank you.
Awesome. Francisca, that was a wonderful presentation. We had a lot of great questions. And if anyone wants to see this presentation again, you can find it on our Facebook page at Rockford SBDC. I see we had some fans that joined us live as well. So again, thank you very much, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Good luck on your
Thank you.
businesses. Thanks.